All right, yeah, fine. Daf Yud Amud Beis in the middle of the page. So the Shiur again is the initial of my father. In the Gemarrah preceding this piece of Gemarrah, we discussed the idea whether or not you need to have it says like this. It says in the title that in order to bring a korban, a pot, an ox, a bull, it needs to be 3 years old. But as a machlokes, everyone agrees that it doesn't have to be full 3 years old. Question is, when it enters its third year, it's already considered a 3-year-old bull. The question is, when does it enter its third year to be considered a bull? Is it 3 years? Is it 2 years and a month, or 2 years and a day? That's the machlokes we had. We had it about an egel, about a calf. Whenever the Torah says the korban has to be a calf, that's less than that. And basically, there's a machlokes with Rav Meir and Rav Elazar. How much of a year has to go by in order for that year to be called a year? One guy says it needs 30 days, and one guy says 1 day is enough. Yoim echad b'shana chashav shana. 1 day in a year is already considered a full year. Or we have shloishim yoim b'shana chashav shana. That 30 days of the year. Now, once 30 days pass, you can call this a new year. That's the machlokes. It was connected with the idea. How long before Shemitah can you plant a tree? How long before Shemitah can you plant a tree? Can you plant it 30 days or 1 day, etc.? But the idea that machlokes is whether 30 days have to pass in order for it to be called a year. Only 1 day of a year could be passed. Now we are Tavshin Pei Vav. Technically, we're already in the year Tavshin Pei Zayin, right? Because we already entered the 87th year. We are now counting towards the 87th year. That's how it works, right? Now, it's him, the year, how old you are. So now you're in the 45th year, the 46th year, but you're still 45, 44, 45. And at what point can you say, I'm in my 45th year? So we know as soon as you turn 45, you're in the 46th, and so on. But here they say, for halachic purposes, there's a machlokes, and the two opinions are 1 day. As soon as 1 day passes, you can consider it a full year. Or 30 days pass, then you consider it a full year. Now, the Gemarrah is trying to ascertain where does this machlokes come from? And the Gemarrah is going to say it comes from the same pasuk. Both of them take a pasuk and dissect it. And one guy will learn from the pasuk that 1 day is enough for it to be called a year, and one guy will learn from the same pasuk 30 days. So, Amar Abechon, the Taisus Ein and Noitin, on Daf Yud Amud Beis. If you go into the Gemarrah, there's a dat Amar Abechon. Both of Meir and Rav Elazar, they both learned it from the same pasuk. It says a pasuk by Mabul, by Noach, by the Mabul. It says a pasuk as Vayihi. It says the Noach was 600 years old when the Mabul started, and then towards the end, one of the last psukim of the Mabul, it says Vayihi be'achas v'sheish me'ashana. It was the 601 years. Bo'ishain on the first day, be'echad lachodesh in the first month. So we're talking about Tishrei, on Rosh Hashana, the Aleph Tishrei, on the 601st years of Noach's living on this world. And this is not talking about 600 years from when the world was created, because the Mabul was 1656 from creation. It's talking about when Noach was from how old Noach was. The pasuk continues and says, if you look on the side, the water started drying up, and the water disappeared, and Noach took off the michsa teva, the cover of the table. So what does it say? Ba'achas 1 v'sheish miyos and 600. 1 and 600, 601. So Rameya says, Rameya Sovan, Mida Akati Yoim Echad. We're talking about the first day of the year. Bo'ishain be'echad lachodesh. The first day of the first month. We're talking about you're standing in the very first day of the next year, and you call it 601 years. You call it Ba'achas v'sheish miyos. You call it already a year. From here we see that if 1 day is enough to pass by for it to be called a full year. So the Gemarrah is going to ask, okay, very good. So what's the Rav Elazar going to say about that? So the Gemarrah says that would be correct if you counted it properly. If you would have counted it 601, and then you say Shana. So Sheish Miyos ve'achas Shana. If you connect the achas to the Shana, then I would say, how can I connect the word achas with the word Shana, even though I'm standing on the first day of the first month? Why? Because even though only one day passed, it's still considered a full year. But because of because you first said achas, and then you say Sheish Miyos, then you say Shana, it's not connected. If you write it this way, 601, and then you write the word years, then the one and the years is connected. And how could you call it a year if it's only one day? And proof is, yeah, one day is enough. But now, now that it says 1 and then it says 600, the years go on the 600 to 600 years. So what is the achas? Umay achas. Atchalta the achas, the beginning of one, but not a complete one. So here, י.ב-יא.ב tells that from this passage you cannot learn that one day is enough for it to be called a full year, because the achas comes before the Sheish Miyos. So, okay, very good. So what's י.ב-יא.'s proof that 30 days is considered a year? י.ב-יא., my time, the same passage.
Could Rameir say, okay, I hear you, but I'm looking.
Yeah, we have to assume that's what Meir is saying. I disagree with you. That you could apply the word Shana to the word Achas, even though the word Sheish Miyos 600 is in between. You could still apply the word Shana to the word Achas. י.ב-יא disagrees. י.ב-יא says, from the very same pasuk, I'm going to teach you that you have to wait 30 days for it to be called a year. Why? So he says this. י.ב-יא my time. The Chsiv, it says in pasuk, B'rishon be'echod lachodesh. He calls it the first day. Sorry, it's the first month, the first day of the first month. He calls the month a complete month, even though only one day passed. Midakati yom echodu, only one day passed. The ayil b'chodesh, only one day in the month passed. V'kakol lechodesh, and you call it a month. Shma mino yom echad b'chodesh chashav chodesh. י.ב-יא agrees that one day of a month can be considered a full month. And because one day of a month is considered a full month, how do you count a month? You count day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 till day 30. So if the smallest unit of that count completes a full unit, so if completes a full month, the smallest unit is 1 day. You count 1 day, it completes an entire month. What's the smallest unit of a year?
30 days.
1 month, 30 days. So now 30 days is considered a full year. And he explains, how do you count a month according to days? So 1 day of a month is considered a month. And how do you count the year with months? 1 month is considered a full year. Now, technically, you could say, if י.ב-יא says 1 day is a month and 1 month is a year, so then he could say 1 day is a year, because automatically it just automates it. If I'm standing 1 day, oh, it's a full month. Oh, if it's a full month, it's a full year. So obviously he doesn't say that. He says in order for it to really be counted a year, you have to have 30 days pass by. But for a month, you will agree. י.ב-יא agrees if 1 day passes, you can call it a month already.
One second. So how is he being chilek from Rameir? Rameir says
that
1
day is counted a year.
It's counted as a year.
A year. And י.ב-יא says 1 day is counted a month. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
For everything or just
No. So there's a couple things that it will be applied to. I don't know if everything. What I'm saying is Con Ed, National Grid, they definitely hold it. Coming today, 30 days later, they still have their cones parked in the street, and so National Grid is here. No, not here. National Grid. So National Grid and Con Ed and USPS, they all go with this thing. Yeah, we're going to deliver in 1 day, and that could mean a year too, but then that's not a big deal. Shine. So that's just for the dust. Zog the Gemarrah weiter. Tanya. Okay, here's an interesting parentheses. There's a famous machlokes, which is exactly what we're going to learn right after. The famous machlokes. When was the world created? י.ב-יא says, where do we account this machlokes first? In Parshas Noach. In Parshas Noach, when it starts telling you the chronological order of the Mabul, it starts arguing, did the Mabul start Yud Zayin Cheshvan or Yud Zayin Iyar? Why? Because according to י.ב-יא.ב, the world was created in Elul, and according to Shiur, the was created in Nisan, in others, and other in Rosh Hashana is Nisan. Anyways, so the Gemarrah here wants to learn, because they are standing on the first day of the first month, and they call it a year. We know what is usually called the first month. Nisan is called Rishon, Ulachem L'Chad Shashon is called the first month. So if they both use the same pasuk, and in this pasuk it says B'Rishon on the first month, Be'echad HaChodesh on the first day of the first month, we must say that they both agree that the first month in the year is Nisan, and therefore the world was created in Adar, and Rosh Hashanah is Nisan. That's what the Gemarrah wants to learn. So there's Maseches Rashi and Tosfos whether you have to erase this line. Rashi says you have to erase this line. That's why they put it in parentheses. And Tosfos works it out and says you can put it inside, and he explains how how it works out. Because Rashi says it's not true. Not just because they mentioned this pasuk does not mean that B'Rishon means Nisan. Maybe B'Rishon means the first month of creation. What was the first month of creation according to the Shitta that other the Tishrei? So therefore, it's not a. So Rashi says delete this line. Tosfos says leave it in, and what the י.ב-יא.ב decided to do with it, decided to put it in the parentheses. I had a teacher in all Torah that he disliked these new Gemarrahs. He loved the Gemarrah. Gemarrah had a few old things. The Ein Mishpat, Rabbi Chananel, the new Hagoyes v'Tziyunim, and the new say that he absolutely disliked. He says, "Give me the Gemarrah and let me break my head. Don't fix things for me that may not make sense." Because this is an example. Tosfos says don't delete it, so leave it like this. And Rashi will tell you delete it. Tosfos will tell you not to delete it, but they decided to put it in the parentheses. Anyways, that's a side note. Tana Rabbi Elazar, I'm a B'Tishrei Nivoilam. This is the Machlekes. Rabbi Elazar says, when was the world created? In Adar, and when is Rosh Hashanah Tishrei? But Tishrei noel the Avos. Tishrei, two of the Avos were born, Avraham and Yaakov. You'll see in a second. But Tishrei Mesa Avos, in the same month that they were born, the Avos also died. Daf Yud on the bottom. But Pesach noel Yitzchak. It is a fact that is known, and which the Gemarrah will see the Gemarrah later on, that Yitzchak was born on Pesach, so therefore you cannot say that the Avos means all the Avos. It means Avraham and Yaakov. Okay, Pesach and Yitzchak. Rosh Hashana nifkad Sarah Chana. On Rosh Hashana, Sarah and Chana were remembered that they will become pregnant. Not that they became pregnant, but they will remember they will become pregnant. Rosh Hashana Yatzesim B'Sasurim. Yosef went out of jail on the day of Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana Batla Avodim Aviseinu B'Mitzrayim. On the day of Rosh Hashana, the Yidden stopped working. The Makkos lasted of almost a full year, but the shibut Hagolus, the work, the being ruled by them and being told to work, stopped 6 months before the Gula. So B'Nisan Nigalu B'Tishra Asidah Negoel. The Nisan, the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, and the Gula Asidah with Mashiach will be during Tishrei. And the Gemarrah is going to learn each item why he says that Tishrei is the month of all these things. Now B'Shua disagrees. B'Nisan Nivoilam, the world was created in Adar, and Nisan is Rosh Hashanah. B'Nisan Noel the Avos, and Nisan, all the Avos are born in Nisan, including Yitzchak. And B'Nisan Mesa Avos, but Pesach Noel Yitzchak, he agrees with this. It's just a statement, just like before he mentioned Pesach, he mentions it again. He doesn't really have to mention it because we know already all the Avos are born in Nisan. But he agrees that Sarah, Rachel, and Chana were remembered to become pregnant on Rosh Hashanah. But Rosh Hashanah Yotza, Yosef B'Sasurim, Yosef went out of jail on Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah Batla Avodim Aviseinu, B'Mitzrayim. This he agrees with י.ב-יא.ב. And B'Nisan Nigalu, the Yidden came out of Nisan, went out of Mitzrayim Nisan. B'Nisan Asidim the Goel, and also Nisan is a Chodesh HaGeula. It is a month that the Yidden will go out of Golus with Mashiach's Kingdom. Yeah.
So what's the difference?
The difference is when Avraham and Yaakov were born, and when they died. That's the main difference. And when is the Mashiach going to come?
Is there a practical difference? The other Rosh Hashanah, there are practical differences between Nisan and Tishrei for different things. Or is it just the minor Muslim to know when these things happen?
The only practical difference that I saw that I didn't see, whatever I think might make sense is to say that Avraham Avinu's bris was in Yud Alef Nisan. I have a whole cheshbon. We'll get to it. A whole cheshbon, how it came to that cheshbon. It could be wrong. It definitely sounds nice, but that's technically what difference does it make? It makes a difference with the cheshbonis when exactly. When it was world created makes a difference when the mabel was. How do we count the mabel?
Bris wasn't 8 days. It was 100 years later, 90 years later.
Correct. One aspect about Alza and about Alza. But
I know that Yitzchak was born on Pesach from Masechah. The Rebbe writes it in Masechah, so that's how I know it.
The Chumash Mistame has it from the Sikha also. The Chumash has it from the Sikha. Yeah.
The Rebbe posted out.
No, the Dubendin used to say when he used to learn Rambam, he used to say the Rebbe says today in the Rambam, and that's how he used to learn Rambam. The Rebbe says today in the Rambam. Okay, so now we're going to dissect this whole machlokas. How do we know that the world was created in Tisha Shenema? It says in the Apostle of י.ב-יא.ב, the Eibishter said, Tatshe ha'aretz desha. When the Eibishter created the world, it says, let the earth sprout forth. Desha, grass, esev mazia zera, a grass that will have, you have seedlings there. Eitzvi, a tree that has fruits. So it says like this, Eze chodesh, which month do we have? Sheha'aretz, you have to change the word from Metzia to Meleya, that the world is Meleya, is full of grass. Ve'ilon molepedes, it says eitzvi, a tree that has fruits, not it will bear fruits, it has fruits. What month in the year do we have a tree that is full of fruits? During Tishrei, that's the season. Apple picking is sukkahs, right? We all know. Zman Revi'ah, and that Tishrei is the time of the Geshem, the time of rain, and V'yodek Shalmim v'Tzimcha, and the rain came down, and everything grew. Shenema, how do we know that the rain came down? Shenema v'Eidi Al Me'oz, a mist came onto the land. So that whenever that Tishrei, the world was created, the Eibishter created the world, and the Eibishter right away brought rain, made it beautiful, everything is good. And the Eibishter created the trees full. Rabbi Shua no, Minayin Shebatish, Menissen Yivoilam. How do we know that the Nissen world is created? Shenema v'Toitza, same pasuk. V'Toitza Oretz Desha Eisa Mazia Zera. He skips a few words. It's not v'Eitzvi. It says v'Eitz Oisepri, a tree that will eventually bear fruits. So the tree was created fully. The tree was created upright, standing, ready to bear fruits, but it did not have any fruits yet. Eze chodesh ha'aretz motzia d'shoyim. Now we put the word motzia. What month do we have that the earth will bring out grass? Not that it will be full. It will start sprouting grass. Vilan moitzipes. In what month will fruits start growing on the trees? Havayim as a Nisan. That's a Nisan. So therefore we see that the creation of the world was a Nisan. At that time, the Eibishter wanted to create the world, and he wanted to make sure that there's enough animals in the world. So that's the season. We had this already in the Gemarrah. We had this already in Gemarrah earlier, that in Adar, at the end of Adar, is when the animals mate. So yeah, that's the time when the animals start mizdaving, they start mating and procreating more animals. Shenema love shokar matzoin, like we had a pasuk that they become pregnant, etc. We're not going to go into that pasuk, but that's what the pasuk says. We had that already. So now, he has the same pasuk. One guy says, י.ב-יא.ב says, Eitzvi, that the tree already had fruits. Rabbi Shua says, Eitz oisapi, that the tree can make fruits, can bear fruits, but doesn't have fruits yet, and that is Nisan. Rabbi that says it's a fruit-bearing tree. It says in pasuk it's a fruit-bearing tree. Not that it says in pasuk that you'll have fruits. This was given to you as a blessing. I'm giving you now a full tree, and eventually the fruits will come down, and next year the fruits will start growing again, and like this for all the generations. Ve'idach, Yeshua also, it says no namo ksiv eitzpri. Rabbi says it says clearly in the pasuk that the tree will be full of fruits. How could Rabbi Shua ben Levi? Rabbi Shua uses that like Rabbi Shua ben Levi said. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, kol ma'aseh bereishis lekemasa nivu, ledaito nivu, letzivyon nivu. Everything in the world, as soon as the Eibishter created, it was created fully, with a full mind in their ways, with a full height. And letzivyon, and letzivyon could be tied color, beauty, or tzivyon could be their will. Like we say in the Ksuba, v'tzovas, that the word tzova could also mean will. In any case, when it says eitz peri, it's coming to teach you that like I said before, that when the Eibishter created the tree, He created a full-grown tree. It didn't start off as a sapling, as a small thing. It started off full. It says the Eibishter completed all the whole creation, and it has v'chol tzavam, that the Eibishter finished creating the world. That's tzivyonim fully with all the colors or with all its mind as well. Okay, it says, how do we know that Tishrei, during Tishrei the Avos were born? Avraham and Yaakov, Shnema ve'ikalu ala melech shloime kol ish Yisrael b'yerecho esanim b'chag. All the Yidden gathered around Shloime in the Yerach, in the month that we call Esanim. Esanim is might, strength. In Yontif Chag, what Yontif is usually Chag? That's Sukkot. Yerach shenoil the boy Esanim Olam, the month that the mightiest people in the world were created. This is going on the Avos. Now, how do we know that Esan means strong? My mashma, the high Esan lishnatakif. How do we know that Esan means strength, might? Esan moishavecha, and the passage continues, Vesim betzela kinecha. That the Eibishter dwells in the mighty place. Sela is a very strong, is a rock. So Esan is might. So now we know Esan is might. How do we know that Esan means also Avos? Ve'oyim, it says another passage, Shimu harim ez riv Hashem. Listen, mountains, the fight of the Eibishter. V'ho Esanim, and the same mountains which are called Esanim because they're made out of rocks. Mois de'ah is the ones that have the foundation of the world. And what does it say? Ve'oyim koil doidi hinei zeba. Here the sound is goes to Mashiach. He jumps on the mountains and he jumps on the hills. Al here doesn't mean on top, it means because. The reason he can jump is because of the mountains, because of the hills. Medalek al halim b'schus is because of the Avos. Mekapatel gavois, you can jump over the valleys, over the hills, the buffs. B'schus. So going back, how do we work this out? So the Mashiach can jump on the mountains and can jump on the hills because of the Avos. Why? Because the Hadim mean the Avos, Gvois means the Imais. And now we say, the pasuk before that we said that the Hadim are also called Esanim. So here we see that the Avos are called Esanim. And now we go back to the pasuk of Shlomo Melech, that all the Eden gathered around the Shlomo Melech in the month that we call the month of Esanim. What month is that? And it says Chag, it's Sukkot. What month is that? That is Tishrei, because Tishrei, the Esanei Ha'olam, the mightiest people of the world were created. Okay, that's Rabbi Shua's shita. That's Rabbi Lazar's shita. Rabbi Shua, okay, almost by the wide lines here on Dafid Aleph and Aleph. Rabbi Shua, how do we know that in Nisan the world the Avos were born? It was in the 480 years from the Eden going out of Mitzrayim. Bashana Avis, on the fourth year of that count, B'chodesh Ziv, in the month of Ziv. What is the month of Ziv? Month of Ziv is Iyal. And we had in the beginning of the Gemarrah already that it says that it's called Ziv. Month of Iyar is called Ziv, but it's called Ziv because as soon as Iyar came in, the Avos were already born. That the Avos created a Ziv, a beauty in the world.
Could Ziv be referring to something else? I don't want to say exactly.
Ziftane Olam, the month that the Ziftane, the beauty of the world, was created. So that is Iyal, and in Iyal the Avos were already born. So the Gemarrah asks now, okay, we have one pasuk that tells us that the Eden gathered around Shlomo Melech beYechosanim bechag during Sukkot in the month of Esan, and we have another pasuk that says Iyal is called Chodesh Ziv because at that time the Avos were already born. So how do both of them work out these psukim? It says also Yechasanim. And for the Gemarrah Hasam, the Takif of Mitzvahs, you call it a month of Esan, a mighty month, because the month of Tishrei is full of mitzvahs. You have starting Rosh Hashana, going to Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and in Sukkot itself, you have a few mitzvahs. It's full of mitzvahs. So the Esanim does not go on people; it goes on the mitzvahs. The other guy says it says Ziv. During Nisan, there is a beauty in the world. The trees. The Omer Yehuda Haiman Denafik bin Nisan. Whoever walks out in the days of Nisan v'chazi lani and sees a tree, the melavlavi, that starts sprouting forth leaves. The famous bracha we make on Nisan when we see a tree sprouting, starting to grow. Okay, so ziv, according to that, means not people; it means trees. Okay. They both agree that if you decide, whatever month you decide the Avos are born, it's the same month that they have to die. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu stood on his last day and he said, I am 120 years today. The word today is redundant. I am 120 years old. Why do you have to say today I'm 120 years old? You should have not said Hayoim. Why is he saying the word Hayoim? Today I turn 120 years. Today I'm complete 120 years. Day and month. Shenema as mispa yomecha amalek. It says in pasuk, it brings another pasuk to teach you that the Eibishter completes the days of tzaddikim. This is a Gemarrah that's brought in other places as mispa yomecha amalek, that the Eibishter completes the days of tzaddikim.
Isn't this all Gemarrah Maseches Rosh Hashana?
י.ב-יא.ב.
Avram Avinu, he was born in this in Tishrei. Somebody's wrong.
Yes, it's a Maseches in a fact. It's an argument of fact. But first of all,
The Rebbe Shalom comes to you and says, okay, Avram Avinu was born on
the concept that there's no machlokes in facts, it doesn't always apply. That's you see many places. It doesn't always apply. Yeah, only exactly. Yeah, so so in such places, it's a fact that you can't really go back and check. Other facts that you can go back and check and verify, say that you can have machlokes, but facts that you can't verify is a machlokes. How do you learn what's it? The machlokes gets even stronger once we get into Kiddush HaChodesh. How do you start counting the moon and the tkufas and the shmitas and everything starts making a difference? If it's Nisan or Tisha, everything changes in the calendar. And they came to Apshala, and we had this already that for one count you count Nisan, the other count you count Tisha. So everything is mixed up. And we have a calendar, and we Baruch Hashem can survive. But does it make a difference in your day-to-day life? Difference will make again if you daven Nisan is the bliss of Avram Avinu. That was my. Okay, let's get to that. 100%. Okay.
Shvat is only Yudal Chodesh if Tisha is the beginning. No, if Nisan is the beginning.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, Shnemes Misbeh Mechamale. That the Eibishter will complete to fill up your days. Pesach Noel Yitzchak. How do we know the Pesach Noel Yitzchak? Everyone agrees that Yitzchak was born on Pesach. They receive. It says in the pasuk, La Moyed Oshav Alechem. I will return to you at the same time, and what does the pasuk say? And you'll have a son. Yeah. So that's whenever it says Moyed, not only does it mean time, it also means a yontif. So basically, according to this Gemarrah, what the Malachim told Avram, that I'm coming to you the next yontif, I'm returning to you the next coming yontif, and then you'll have a son. Okay? So Amos Koi, when did the Malachim tell this nevuah to Avram Avinu? Ilem in Pesach, could you say this happened on Pesach? Pesach, the Malachim came and told him the next yontif you're gonna have a baby. And he told him that on it says on Shavuos you'll have a baby. That's not possible. In 50 days, Miko Yolda, could someone have a baby? Elo the Kohabat says must be that the Malachim came on Shavuos and they told her that Tishrei, Sukkos, in Sukkos you'll have a baby.
How does 50 days come in? I don't understand that.
It says in Pasuk La Moyed Oshav Alecha. The next Moyed means the next yontif I'm returning to you, and you'll have a son.
Okay.
When did they tell him that? You can't.
If it's Pesach, then it can be.
If it's Pesach, the next yontif is Shavuos. If it's Shavuos, the next yontif is Tishrei. So you make the calculation. From Pesach to Shavuos is only 50 days. From Shavuos to Tishrei is 4 or 5 months. You could have 5 months there, but in 5 months you can also not have a viable baby.
Doesn't that just say that the Malachim came on Pesach.
Yeah, the Gemarrah here does not go according to the Medrash. Could he have a baby within 5 months? Ella, we must say the Koi B'Chag. He's standing in the Yontav of Sukkot. V'ka'amala b'Nisan. And he told her that what's the next Yontav? Nisan. From Tisha to Nisan is almost 7 months. 7 months, you can have a viable baby. So the Gemarrah, but it's not complete 7 months. Tishrei, from 15th day of Tishrei to the 15th day of Nisan, because Pesach was born, right? Is exactly Tishrei, is Cheshvan, Kislev, Teva, Shvat, Adar, Nisan. It's 6 months, not 7 months.
2 others.
That's a simple answer. So the Gemarrah, can you have a viable baby in 6 months? Tana, we learned, it was a י.ב-יא.ב, we had 2 others, and therefore that's 7 months. For the Gemarrah, a simple question: if you count exactly from Sukkot till exactly Pesach with an י.ב-יא.ב, it's exactly 7 months. But what do we say in the story that Avram tells Sarah, go prepare food, make lushi vasiuga, start baking bread. And what happened to the bread? What do we say? She had a period. She couldn't bake bread. She couldn't use the bread. So now you have to take away 7 days from that moment. 7 days is not 7 months anymore. So now basically she could only become pregnant at the end of Sukkot, and she had a baby on Pesach, which technically we say is the beginning of Pesach. So it's 6 months and 3 weeks, and that's not a viable baby. For the Gemarrah, at the end, if you remove the days of Tumah, which is 7 days, it's not enough, it's not 7 months. Zuta said no. There are two viable babies, a 9-month, a full term, and a 7 months. It says that a 9-month full term baby is called a full term when the entire 9 months are full. It has to be 9 times 30, 9 times 29, 30, 29, 30. But a 7-month baby does not have to be a full set. As soon as you enter your 7th, you're already in safe territory. When someone gives birth to 9 months, it means a full 9 months. She's not giving birth. She's not cutting up the ninth month. But a 7-month baby can be born in its 7th month. It doesn't have to be a complete 7 month. So now again, even though she became Tameh in Sukkot, and she only was able to become pregnant right after Sukkot, she was in her 7th month when she gave birth to Yitzchak.
Why do we have to say that she became pregnant right away? It took 3 months, and then a year later she had a baby. Why do you have to say that right away when the...
Because we know that Pesach, that he was born...
Pesach they came, they said next year...
No, they came Sukkot. They came Sukkot. That's basically the idea. It says, the next Yontev that I'm coming back to you, you will have a son. So if you're standing in one Yontev and you say the next Yontev, the longest stretch between 2 Yom Tovim is Tishrei to Pesach.
But everyone says they came Sukkot.
So
The Gemarrah says they came Sukkot.
Forget what the Chumash is. That's the Medrash. Medrash Rabbah, say the Olam. That's the whole. Rashi brings the Medrash. Rashi brings the Medrash. Yes, Rashi brings the Medrash. Rashi brings it twice, both in the time when it came and then later on.
It makes more sense because they became Pesach. So next year will come, we already have a baby.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be exact.
Correct. But this Gemarrah does not.
Exciting.
The Gemarrah does not agree. This Gemarrah does not. And you will see Taisus has a problem. And eventually will turn out that Yulav Nisan was the Avram Zvinas Bliss. So this is what we're focused tonight is. That's it.
You don't want to cover the...
No. Okay.
What he thinks about it.
Let's see what. Okay, that she can have a baby at 7 months and it will be viable. Shenema, like it says in Pasuk, Vayihilet Kufos Hayomim. It was, but it says by Chana that she became pregnant. Let Kufos Hayomim. She had 2 Tkufos and 2 Yomim. Miut Kufa Shtayim, Miut Yom Shtayim. How much is a Tkufa? A Tkufa is 3 months. 3 months and 3 months is 6 months, and Yomim is 2 and 2, and she had a viable baby by 6 months and 4 days and 2 days. Okay, so now we have this problem. We learn a Chumash Chumash's whole history. When the Malachim came to Lot, it says that he gave the matzahs because it was Pesach. When did the Malachim come to Lot? Right after they left Avram Avinu. Why did the Malachim come and visit Avram Avinu? Because they came to heal. He had a bliss. They came to heal him. On the 3rd day of the bliss, they showed up by him. And the 3rd bliss showed up by him. and then they went to Zdaim, and that's when it told him, Ko'eis Chaya, the next, okay. So Taisus, we're not going to go through this whole Taisus. It's a big Taisus here on the side, Elo de Koy B'chag. It's a big Taisus, but it's a very interesting Taisus. We're not going to go through the whole thing. So let's, Besugya de Shmaita. Taisus on Dafid Av, the large Taisus. The scary looking one. Besugya de Shmaita Muchach, in our Gemarrah, it's Muchach, it is apparent, it's clear. The Batisha Nimel Avam, then the Avam had his bliss on Tisha. Avam Bina. The Perak Asarchas Apoilim, in Vamantzia, it says, Amrinon b'shlishi shel Mila bo'etz l'malachim, on the third day of his Mila, the malachim showed up by him. Ve'oz nemaloi, and in that day it was told, he was told, that the next Yontif, you will have a baby. And obviously, we just said in this whole Gemarrah that this whole story happened in Tishrei. We must say, Avram Avinu's bliss was on Tishrei. Now comes the interesting thing. Where Pirkat Rebbe Naman Winen says in Pirkat Rebbe there be a Kippur Nimoil Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu's bliss was on Yom Kippur. So now we have a problem. You asked, yeah, I was trying to be a lot. So Nima, that's the Maaseh. He had a bliss on Yom Kippur. And now we have a problem though. We have a problem. Yom Kippur is on the 10th day of Tishrei, and they told him La Moye, the next month, the next Yontif that shows up. So Yom Kippur, see, they came
3 days later. The next Yontif. 3
Sukkot.
days later. Sukkot.
Oh, so what does the Taisa say? V'hashte hoda ka'am v'chag lav dafke. The Shnei Yom Lifnei Chag. The fact that it says they showed up during the Yontif is lav dafke. No, they showed up 2 days before the Yontif. 2 days before the Yontif, the anxiety at home is so big. Everyone feels it's Yontif already. The Kivon, the Nimel B'Yom Kippur, and because his bliss was Yom Kippur, so they showed up 3 days later. That was before Yontif. That the first Yontif that you will approach, that should have been Sukkos. This Yontif that we are almost in, the Yontif after that. Okay, the Kaim Bay, this Yontif that we are now in, we're talking about the Yontif after that. The Keilu Kaim B'Chag, it's almost as if we're already in Yontif Sukkos. Even the fun of because it's only 2 days before Yontif. Okay, so a simple cheshbon. If we go according to the Chumash, which the Medrash, which Taisus at the end later on it goes, Taisus goes and says, if you skip this until
that's what Benissen I see here.
Yeah, right after that. But there's a parenthesis. Umiyu pliga the hacha. This is a machloikas. The ka'amanan b'tezav b'nissen diba kadosh baruch hu mavon b'tezav b'nissen ba malachim lebasai. Zot azay. Rab Meir shliach tzibur. Rab Meir was a shliach tzibur. I guess in his time of Taisus. Yosad, they added a piyut in the mind of Pesach. And what did he add in the words? Matzahs of vayechelo, that he baked matzahs and they ate it, which is a pasuk said by Loit. And when did he add this pasuk? B'leil Chag Pesach. Why? Because it's a connection. The Malachim came to visit Bo'erev at night. They came to visit Loit, and he baked matzahs. Okay. Anyway, so basically, what happened? Avram Avinu, it says he's sitting in the heat of the day, and that night they went to the Sdoim, and it was Pesach. So what they did? What did Avram get as visitors? Must be Yudalit. Now go back 3 days. With Alvinissen. Must say the bliss of a woman was Alvinissen. No?
Based on the Chumash.
Based on bits. And yeah, because Tosis says at the end, as it says, that even this Gemarrah doesn't go to, what's it called? No. We have to figure out a way to explain it to everyone that says that it's very hard to understand why the Gemarrah totally looks away from this entire thing that the Chumash mentions, that in Wesh's Rabbah and in Seder Olam, that this whole story was in Pesach. And he answers, we must say this according to the Shita of Yeshua. Whatever the case is, according to what we learn, or what we accept, that this story happened in Pesach, it must be that the Malachim showed up during the day, and it was Yidalit Nissen technically, and 3 days earlier, as Yidalit Nissen.
If they're already keeping Pesach and Sukkot, it's not such a big color that we're keeping out this also.
100%. Who says it?
They were keeping Pesach before.
Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Mele.
What's the big?
Yeah.
What?
It's not a chiddush.
So if you think about it, Yud Aleph Nisan is the day.
What's the difference Pesach or Yud Aleph Nisan for them? It's the same thing. It was before it happened, but it was keeping Kol HaDerech.
Right.
No, your Nisan is greater.
Of course, because it comes before Pesach. You can't have Pesach without Yud Aleph. You can't get.
Right. You can't have someone that's not nish gemalet.
The Rebbe says you can't get to Hanukkah without Yud Kislev. Even though I have to.
100%. So if Yud Aleph Nisan was the day that Avram Avinu had his bliss, which that started basically, that really started the Yiddish, the what's it called? That started, now he became a nation. A bliss with the Eberstein, the Yidden, started on Yud Aleph Nisan. And then many years later, that was born. And they bring us out of goals. Okay. So that's the Chiddush over here. Sagt die Gemarrah weiter. Skabel v'tach, yeah?
Yeah.
Accepted? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Question.
All right. Okay. Now we are holding 6 lines from the bottom. On the Shana, Sada Rachel Chana were remembered that they will have to become pregnant at some time. Minolan. How do we know that it happened on Shana? That we remember on Shana. Even according to Al Gemarrah, that this thing happened, that she became pregnant after Sukkot. On Rosh Hashana, she was remembered. She remembered a couple of weeks before. So it says the pasuk azay. It says the pasuk, Omer Abelaza Asip Pkida Pkida. Pkida means remembering. Asya Schida Sin is a pasuk. There's 2 psukim that mentions Pkida, and there's 2 psukim that mentions Schida, and we're going to learn from one another. And this is how it goes. Ksiv Barachel, it says Barachel. Vayiskar Lakim is Rachel. The Eibusha remembered Rachel, and she became pregnant. So it says, use the word Yiskar, Schida. Ksiv B'chana, it says Vayiskar Hashem, and the Eibusha remembered her. So now we know that Chana and Rachel were remembered Gzera Shava at the same time. We don't know yet what day that is. V'as is Chidasim, Rosh Hashana. Now we bring in another pasuk where it mentions Rosh Hashana and mentions the word Schila. The Chsiv Shabbos and Zichron Tuah. It says that Hashana is called Shabbos and Zichron Tuah. So now Zichron happened on Rosh Hashana, remembering is Rosh Hashana. V'adachel it says remembering, so it happened on Rosh Hashana. B'chana it says remembering, so it happened on Rosh Hashana. Then we bring another pasuk. Pkida. The Chsiv B'chana it says B'chana Ki Pakad Hashem Eschana. Hashem remembered Eschana, and now we know when Hashem remembered Eschana. We already know that it was in Rosh Hashana. Uksiv Basara Hashem Pakad Asara. The Eibusha remembered Sarah. So just like Chana, we just learned that Chana was remembered in Rosh Hashana. Sarah as well was remembered in Rosh Hashana. Okay, at the end of that, a new Gemarrah. 2 lines in the bottom. Rosh Hashana Yosef came out of jail. Minon the Chsiv. Tiku b'choy the shoifal, blow on the yontif b'kesleim chageno, the month that the moon is hiding, which is Hashana. You should blow shoifal. What does the pasuk say right after? Eidos b'Yosef Shammai. Eidos b'Yosef Shammai b'Tzeisal Eretz Mitzrayim. There's an eidos for Yosef when he went out al Eretz Mitzrayim, when he went out to rule Eretz Mitzrayim. So what day did he go out to rule Eretz Mitzrayim? The day he came out of jail. And that it was connected to the pasuk before that speaks about blowing shofar on Tishrei. So we must say that Yosef went out of jail on Rosh Hashana. But Rosh Hashana botla avoida ma v'seinu. On Rosh Hashana the avoida by Yidden stopped. B'Mitzrayim. Chsiv it says the pasuk v'itzeisi esrei metachas sivlos Mitzrayim. The Eibusha says, I will take you out from sivlos, from the pain and the suffering. The same pasuk we mentioned before about Yosef, it says that I removed Yosef from the pain and suffering. So it's the same thing. Just like Yosef was removed on Rosh Hashana, the same thing. Also, the Yidden were removed from working from that pain and suffering on Rosh Hashana. And now, besides Benissen Nigaluk at the Easter like we had now, that's clear in Torah. But Tishrei still in the goal according to one opinion, who will be redeemed on Tishrei. How do we know that? It says here that the Eibusha will blow a shofar on a Shana. We talk about shofar gadol. The Eibusha will blow a great and awesome shofar. So we must say that the shofar will be blown on the same yontif that our shofars are blown, which is Tishrei. Same yontif, the same month.
What's on top of the page?
That is a continuation to the Tosfos. It's an interesting Hagah. It's a continuation of the Tosfos before. Tosfos before was trying to explain how this works out, that they came. And at the end, he adds a way to explain how is it possible this whole thing with the Sutta B'Kois. So we said that the Eibishter came and made a sign in the wall and says when the sun is going to be in the exact same spot next year, that's when you're going to have a son. But that must have been Nisan. And explains how this works out and how do you make the cheshbonos. When did he come? When did he go? It's a whole long thing back and forth. The meforshim speak about it also at length. There's a huge masha that tries to argue with the Tosfos back and forth, and it's yeah. Sagt the Gemarrah. Let's finish this Gemarrah. So the blatt says the Nisan Nigalu, but Tisha Sid Nigal, and Yeshua says, but Nisan Nigalu, but Nisan Sid Nigal. Minolan, how do we know that it will be redeemed in Nisan as well? Or Makor, it says in pasuk Leil Shimuim. Leil, it says in pasuk twice the word Shimuim. It says in pasuk Leil Shimuim hu. It's a Leil Shimuim, a guarded night. Let's see Me'etzim Tzoim. Halayla Zel Hashem Shimuim. Again, it's guarded. It's put away. Leil Shimuim, Leil Meshumo Abba Meshes B'Bereishis. It's a night that was put away from one of the Shimuim goes on the night of Pesach that were taken out of Mitzrayim, and the other Shimuim is telling us that eventually there will be another night, another time that the Eibishter will take us out of Mitzrayim, and it's in the same month, and it was put away that date from Pesach and on. Ve'idach, it says Leil Shimuim twice. So the Gemarrah, Lailo HaMeshumo Abomin HaMazikin, the Pesach night is put away, that for generations and generations, it's a night that you don't have any problems with any mazikim, any bad things that might hurt you. And Rabbi Shua says, the Rabbi Shua Tate Shamas Minah, Rabbi Shua learns the fact that there's no mazikim, there's no hurtful, luchas, hurtful shadim, ghosts, etc. Shua learns it from the same meshuma, the tate mashma, Shamas Minah. The kula moed the meshuma and the mazikim. Everyone agrees that the night of the seder is a night that you're safe from any bad things. It says in Psachim, the tikkun dalat koises, that they said you can have dalat koises, and there is a concept in Yiddishkeit that you should not have something with zugas, you should not have anything that's doubled up, couples, because that's an issue with shadim. And by Pesach night you can drink dalat koises. Why? Because that night is safe, you're safe.
Eggs, you have to make eggs odd, right? You boil the eggs odd because of that.
It's for both of the
That's the.
It's not because of pears?
Oh,
when you make eggs in an omelet, you make 2 eggs, no? You can't do 2 eggs?
No. When you boil hard-boiled eggs.
Oh.
the thing that Masha brings here.
You only should.
But it's only by eggs. It's not by anything else. Like you can't do 4 potatoes together.
So the luchas is missing.
You can't make a challah with 4
eggs
potatoes.
because of the blood spot.
It's only eggs.
Because of the blood spot.
No, it's because
They take zugas.
The whole zugas is
only by eggs.
No, I don't know if it's by eggs. But
By eggs, by zugas. With pears, it's like a Kabbalah.
but this has a practical application because Friday night we have a minhag. Friday night we have a minhag to right after Shemona Esrei to say the Me'en Zayin. Me'en Zayin. We have a minhag to repeat the entire Shemona Esrei in a short version. Why do we have this minhag? Because people came late and the shuls were out of town and it was scared b'shedim and mazikim, and eventually the Tzva writes, this Gemarrah writes that today the shuls are all in towns. Even in times of the Tzva, there wasn't an issue anymore, and we still kept saying it. Why? Because minhag b'seini b'dein, that's how they did it before. We kept saying it. One night we don't say it. If Shabbos, Friday night, is Pesach, is the first night, we don't say it on the night of Pesach. Why? Because Pesach, we have to show that we don't have fear. That's why we will go out. Is that what?
Want him to go home right away to the Saturday.
Yeah. Anyways, you come home and then he starts putting together the kite of the Seder plate, and it always takes time. Yeah. Okay, we'll stop here.
ChatGPT is masking with you about the dolphin.